everybody, I'm Amber.
And I'm Maddie.
And we're Witches Talking Tarot. And today we are continuing down the path of vampire lore into before the 1800s.
Yes.
So we are going 1700s and back, with the 1700s being where the Eastern European vampire was introduced to the Western European world. And previous to that, because that's where all the shit that got taken over to the West came from.
So I just realized, are we going to be also discussing, like, ancient, like
Vlad and...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, Vlad and that one lady.
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Okay.
Countess...
I wasn't sure if they went along with the myths or not, because they're not myths. They're real vampires.
Well, I mean, but this is like, for me, this is the historical vampire episode. So, oh my God, because we get to talk about Count Dracula, or not Count Dracula, the Count from Sesame Street in this episode.
I know, that was what I was thinking too. I was thinking that.
So, okay, let's see.
I wonder if people think it's offensive when they're like from Transylvania and people are like, or if they're like, we don't really talk. We don't
suck your blood.
They're like, we don't really talk like that.
Shit. Yeah, you do. That's okay. We can pretend we're not American, but we still are. So, we feel you. We feel you. I mean.
So where should we start with this episode?
Well, I guess let us start with just the various different, so pre-Count Dracula.
Okay.
Right? There was the Strigoi, the Vrykolakas. You think I'm saying that right? Vrykolakas? It's the Grecian one. The Hellenic vampires.
Yeah, I think so.
It
that's
starts
the
with
best
a V,
just like other vampires. I mean, like, they all correspond.
Vrykolakas.
And that one,
a weird word.
These two in particular, if you don't mind me saying, they were really fucking ugly. They were really
They
mean.
were
like
ugly.
The Hellenic one was like, I think I read that they were
ugly.
like super bloated and they were like blue, right? Or am I thinking of the other one?
No, that's all. Like, that's the bloated thing that would be attributed to like all vampires back then, because
they were dead.
So scientifically speaking, when people dug up their dead relatives or neighbors or whatever, they didn't understand the things that happen in the body for decomposition that we understand now.
Yes.
So, like, they dig them up and, like, their bodies would be bloated. Sometimes they'd have blood trickling out of their mouth or blood on their teeth.
They'd be like, holy shit.
Right. So they're like, oh my God, they're gorged on blood. And they're like, their complexions are ruddy or purplish or bluish because they're fucking decomposing.
Oh my God.
But people look at it and go, oh, they've got so much color in their skin. They haven't decomposed yet.
I have to say, just because, like, you talking about this brings this up, I think it goes with vampires very well. So, as for me not watching negative things on YouTube, I will say I've been doing really good, but I did find a clickbait. This guy was in a cemetery, and it was like, some cemeteries have, like, bodies stacked on top of each other and, like, the boxes, almost like a mausoleum. One of them was dripping formaldehyde and leftover blood, because what happened was the casket didn't work. It failed, and it was 100 and some degrees.
Oh.
So they cooked him.
Oh, nasty.
And he was like, I had to call the cops. I was so scared. And it was just first, I know, right? That's what brought it up. I was like, oh my God. So they would see shit like that minus the formaldehyde, and they'd be like, oh my God.
No, not just that. So, like, there's a thing in Europe. It's very common. We don't do it over here, but we should, and it goes very much in line. I'm actually really glad that I learned about this for our vampire episodes, because it goes perfectly in line with me wanting to change the funeral industry as a whole. In Europe, most cemeteries have, for a very long time, and still to this day, some still do, like specifically the island of Lesbos in Greece, they still to this day have cemeteries there is a sign at the cemetery that says, after 3 years, kindly dig up your dead loved one and take care of their bones. Like, the French catacombs that are filled with bones, that's because they ran out of places to bury the dead. So you have to unbury the dead, and you have to treat their bones and put their bones somewhere else, and now you have a new place to bury a new dead person. So in the process of digging these people up to process their bones is where a lot of the vampire lore came from, because when somebody after 3 years wasn't as decomposed as they were supposed to be at that point, oh my God, it's a vampire. But no, they seriously do that. They seriously, like...
I am not a fan of that. I'm not going to dig you up. I love you, Grandma, but...
Well, I think it's kind of beautiful. It's like they're very connected. Well, it reminds me
very much of, like, South American traditions. Because
it's taking care of your loved ones, your family, But also, like, they're literally running out of room in the ground, so they have to dig up what's there.
Well, bones are so small, though. Just laying them on top of each other. I mean, I know that sounds really shitty, but I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just saying, like, for it to get down to bones, like, where they, even if you just dug a hole,
a while.
you've got to take the body apart. Like, even if it's just a bunch of bones, it's in a 6x6 foot plot now, right? And that's way too much room for just all these bones. So you'd still move the bones so you could put a new body there. That's what they do. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's a thing they do.
Oh, no, I believe you. I believe you.
I get your aversion to it, but I see it as, like, a very connected thing of, being so connected to the entire life cycle. And maybe it makes you less afraid of death if you have to constantly face your own mortality through dealing with your loved one's mortality.
It sounds very traumatic.
Yeah, it was really interesting, like, the filmography on this thing, because, like, there in the cemetery, there was a vat of bones that was currently being treated, and it's like wine water.
Well, how the fuck do you know which bone's which if you put them all in one?
Well, that's the thing, is, like, just like the French mausoleum or the French catacombs, whose bones are which, and it's the same thing in lots of other places in Europe. They do that. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very economical. I think it's very connected to the cycle of life. So I think it's really kind of cool.
And you said this is Europe?
Yeah.
In South America, they do something. They have, like, this holiday where they dig up their ancestors, and they're still fresh. They're still rotten, and they change their clothes. And then they leave them out, and can you imagine the smell? I'm not hating on any other cultures.
I can't imagine the smell.
But I think it would be kind of horrific to see Grandma.
Right, like, I understand the breaking it down to bones. Just
seeing it as a fucking bones, though, that shit would fuck me up, too. I think I'd leave that to somebody else, like, in the family.
Yeah, like, I don't think I could redress a corpse for, whatever purposes.
It's beautiful. I mean, they're keeping them alive. They brush their hair. They redress them. It's not for me, but the practice itself, it's very beautiful.
I don't think I could.
Oh no, I could not do that. Just like I couldn't dig up the bones because that's someone I love.
Well, but
I don't want to see them like that. I don't want to see that. That's just me. I absolutely cannot. I can't even do it with a dog. I don't think I could do it with a dog, like or a cat. I'm gonna have an anxiety attack. I'm like, shit. But that's cool.
But that's where, like, that is the origin of where, because, I mean,
right,
think about
they would dig them up
and they'd see them.
So
and
this has been centuries long.
Yes,
okay, I get what you're saying.
Yes.
And they still do it to this day, is what you're saying.
At least in Lesbos. At least on the island of Lesbos in Greece. And I was talking to Corey about it.
Oh, God, it's Greece.
Yeah.
No!
So I thought you'd be super
I
interested.
know! I'm like, son of a bitch, duh, because you said Lesbos, and that makes so much sense. Okay.
Yeah, but I was talking to Corey about that, specifically, like, the documentary I watched with the Greece thing, and he was saying that's very common throughout Europe, and so I kind of looked into it, and it is, especially, like,
well, you mentioned the catacombs, that's pretty much exactly.
Exactly, that's exactly what they did in France, But, like, in the Baltic areas and the Slavic areas, like, that definitely was also a thing that happened, which is where we get those vampire legends from.
And I have to say, now that you say that, what is it in the Baltic and the Russian areas? It's fucking cold. It's cold.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, oh no,
I don't know. Let me look up. I forget.
it's fucking cold. So I imagine that would have a lot to do with decomposition.
Right, because your body gets preserved longer, and you don't understand like why. Like maybe this one is
more rotten than this one.
Yeah, exactly. And the different climate definitely affects that. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, everybody knows Russia's cold. I mean, Napoleon knows Russia's fucking cold. So I imagine somebody dies in the springtime. They're more decomposed than somebody who would die in like a colder time. I don't know. Now that I say that, I was like,
Well, think about it because even now, I think winter now we have digging equipment, but I know historically speaking, if somebody died during the winter time, the ground was too frozen in cold
so
areas
they kind
to dig, so they would have to just like wait to be able to bury the body. And I think it would be put in like a mausoleum or something in the meantime. But I'm sure that does affect decomposition.
Right, because there's no heating element in there. It's still fucking cold.
Yeah, it's still cold, but you're exposed to the air before you get put underground. So, like, if you die in wintertime, you're exposed to, like, the oxygen above ground for so much longer. Does that preserve you, or does that make you rot faster?
I don't know.
Either way,
it reminds me of, like, say, Mount Everest, not Saint Mount Everest. There are bodies. There's somebody who died in 1914, and they look like they were alive yesterday.
Oh yeah, because they're frozen.
Because they're frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying Russia gets that fucking cold, unless it does. I don't know. It gets pretty cold.
At least in the steppes, from what I know about the Russian steppes, like that environment is cold as fuck.
Right. So I imagine it would like.
Yeah.
It would.
I mean, I would think that it would help preserve longer. I mean, I don't know, but like, your point is completely
right. And the fact that vampires kind of originated in that area makes me wonder if like that absolutely has something to do with it. Like, their bodies aren't as raw. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Between the climate changing the way their bodies decompose and the traditional thing of having to dig up your dead loved ones so that you make room in the cemetery. Yeah, like when you put those two things hand in hand, it makes so much sense because like historically, like we were talking, vampires were ruddy and bloated and puffy and gross looking, but sometimes they have blood coming out their mouth, whatever. I can understand if like a body's frozen and then it was buried and it was underground for a couple years.
Well, then it gets fucking warm and it gets cold.
Right, and that's where the blood coming out of the mouth comes from, right? Like, because the gases expand and it pushes that blood out, and then later it freezes again. So, you still look like you were alive 5 days ago. You know what I mean?
You're just a different color.
Right, you're just a different color and you're kind of bloaty. But again, that makes people think you've gorged on blood. And, we talked about the names of the Strigoi in Romania and Vraikolakis in Greece, but I just want to... The Striga is what it's called in Albania, and then there in Albania also is the Dampier, which you had
I had. I don't know if I was right. I can't remember.
It's a hybrid between some fucking things. No, it's a hybrid child of a Carcan shoal or a Lugat.
It is like a hybrid. Like
But I don't like it. The Carcan shoal is something of a shapeshifter, werewolf, lichen, maybe? Did they say lichen? Whatever, shapeshifter or something like that. They didn't say what a Lugat was in the article, but I know that you liked the Dampier, so I just wanted to bring that up.
I know Dampier, pop culture.
Really?
Which is they're a hybrid of a human and a vampire.
Oh.
So I don't know. Part of me wants to look up what the Laguini or what was it?
The Lugat and the
I was so wrong.
Like they weren't listed. Now maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But I couldn't find specific
what they were
Wikipedia articles on them, and I should have just Googled it, but I didn't because I was being lazy.
That's
apparently.
fine. That's fine.
No, I was being lazy. Sorry, guys. I was, because I did mean to Google both those words, but they're really fucking weird.
Well, there's like this whole book. I'm just saying, like, I guess I should have brought it up in the pop culture episode, but we'll just mix it in. It's called Vampire Academy. Don't know if you read it.
I have heard of this.
It's a shitty movie. Don't watch the movie. Okay, there's like 8 books. They only made 1 because it was such a shitty movie. Okay, basically there are Morai, Moroi. There are Stegori. There are Vampires, that's how I pronounce it. How do you pronounce it?
Dampier.
Dampier. Maybe I'm wrong. Basically,
I mean, it's the same.
Well, they're Russian.
Dampier,
They're Russian
Vampire.
vampires in the book, basically. Okay? Like, they are. Absolutely. I mean, the main vampire's name's Dimitri. Like, so Stegori are the bad vampires, and they kill people, and so the Dampiers train to fight the Stegori and protect the Murai, which are the blue bloods of the vampire world. They're not really royalty, but they're pure bloods. And the way you create a Dampier or whatever is by having a Murai having sex with a human. And it creates a Dampier. It's really cool. It's all Russian. It's all Russian culture. Like I believe they go to Russia at one point, and it's really cool. It's
that
really
is cool. That is really cool. Like, because it's just the Dampier. That's just like that little snippet, and I on the Wikipedia article, and I didn't look further into it.
No, that's okay.
I was just like very confused by what I read. It was like it's a hybrid child of this thing or this thing, but it didn't say with what. So humans
maybe it is
probably.
I don't know. I mean, that would make
maybe
sense.
like that. Maybe like they thought that went without saying.
Maybe
I don't know. Like I just but it said that like a Dampier can identify a Lugat or something. So like it feels like it goes very well in line.
It totally
with
does.
that.
It's so I don't want to say fantasy because I hate that. You know what I mean? These are lore. This is lore. But it's so cool. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, no, it is
I
cool.
feel like is the Mariah real thing? Do you mind if I look it up?
Sure.
Because I don't think I found it. I think when I looked up Empire Sorry, my uncle just messaged me, check your doorstep for a delivery.
Oh, nice.
Nice. What did I get?
Love.
I think it was something for the baby.
Hey, still, that's awesome. But like, while you're looking that up, I'm just going to talk about how much I enjoy the fact that vampires are so thoroughly a part of Slavic and Baltic history that in the 11th to 13th century there are like these treatises on anti-pagan things, and it even mentions the fact that pagans in Russia worship Upirs, which is the Russian word for vampire. They have Upir cults where they worship these blood-sucking creatures, and I had also seen that in a documentary.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was just trying to fill the space.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
So a Murai is a type of vampire or ghost in Romanian folklore.
Love it.
A female Murai is called a Murica or something like that. In some versions, a Murai is a phantom of a dead person who leaves the grave to draw energy from the living. So they're like energy vampires. That's crazy. That is weird.
I like that. I can dig it.
Murai are associated with other figures in Roman folklore, which is the Stegori, the Veracolic.
Something
like
word.
That. And then
the Greece vampires, guys. It starts with a V and it ends with Lacus.
So Murai is termed for an undead vampire who rises from the grave after being drained of their blood by another vampire, the Stegor. So they're created by the Strigoi.
So the Strigoi are the OG vamps, and they make the Murai.
That's crazy that they like. I'm gonna read Vampire Academy when I get home. Like I understand as a young adult, but it's Russian vampires. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and cold weather vampires make so much more sense to me than hot weather vampires.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially, well, granted, let me cover this fact, because since I brought up hot weather and I was about to say, in hot weather you have more sunlight. Sunlight and vampires not mixing, that's a today thing. It's not a historical thing. Well, it's not in the historical records that sunlight would kill them.
Right, and it really reflects off the snow.
It does.
You know,
yeah,
now that
it does. Now that I think about it.
So we actually debated on talking about energy vampires anyway. So since we brought up the Murai, we might as well, since they are I mean, of course, they're a modern thing in modern paganism and, well, specifically witchcraft. That's what I would say. I guess they originate from a Romanian thing. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, that does, yeah. I mean, it's very... interesting
Totally,
that's just kind of come in under the radar in a way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, and we definitely
like
have
ghosts.
energy vampires in our society.
Maybe we should, instead of calling them energy vampires, like that sounds so like lame, we'll just start calling them the Mariah, like, or the Moray, like,
the Mariah,
she's a fucking Mariah. You know what I mean?
I like that, yeah.
Because it sounds to me more, it sounds less, oh, they believe in vampires.
Energy vamp?
Yeah, it sounds like, ugh.
Or earlier you had said emo vamp.
Vamp, yeah.
Love that.
So I may start using that term more.
Yeah. So I wonder if that goes hand in hand with like what we were talking about, how some
I guess
people,
I could look up the Dampire
like,
too. Do you mind?
Go for it.
Okay.
Some people like don't know that they are energy vampires.
Right, exactly.
And so like from the standpoint of like if a Strigoi feeds on you and creates you into a Morai and you have no idea, right? Like that makes like really good sense.
It does. It really does. So it's like, but granted, in Romanian folklore, they are ghosts. You know what I mean? So these are quite literally dead vampires that drain your energy, whereas the Strigoi, however, are still considered
beings.
Living.
Yeah, gotcha.
Which again, I think makes perfect sense because if someone's going to drain your energy, they're not going to physically drain it. They're going to use their energy to drain yours. Wow, I'm really kind of loving that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like, I love the OG vampire stuff. Like, I love how in, like, the Upir, Upir, which is all the Slavic names for vampire, because the word we have for vampire, it's just a misunderstanding from the Slavic words for vampire. But, you know, the Striga, all of these things, like, there's so many interesting ways that they become vampires, right? So, like, I love in Chinese and Slavic lore, if an animal or a child jumps over a grave, that individual in
I make that face because I'm like, oh my god, I went on a walk with my nephew and he definitely jumped over a grave.
Oh my god. Vampire. But that was what they believed. Like, they believed that made you a vampire. Like, that was one of the ways.
Oh yeah, like there's so many. Like so just while I'm at it, so the Balkans, folklore, vampires, that's what I'm calling them, are creatures that are a result of the union between a vampire and a mortal human. The union was usually between male vampires and female mortal humans, with the stories of female vampires mating with the male mortal. The stories of female vampires mating with male mortal beings are rare.
You know what?
That
makes a lot of sense in every way, and I like it way better than what Wikipedia said in the little snippet.
I think this is Wikipedia.
Is it in the vampire?
No,
but yeah, that's
vampire.
In the vampire Wikipedia.
It made it so confusing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it said hybrid child of a Carcanshol or a Lugat, and I was like,
well,
what the fuck are those things?
I'm like, maybe yours is more accurate. I don't know, because it is Wikipedia, so who knows?
Right,
but that was
I like
where
that better. But
you know,
also it didn't have the hyperlink to that Wikipedia page, which is why I know I was just lazy.
Well, and
I just assumed it didn't have its own Wikipedia page because there wasn't links. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it makes sense that a female vampire mating with a male human is very rare.
Oh, because
why? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, because, like, can she even get pregnant? And
well, not only that, it's like, can you keep up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you keep up with a female vampire? I don't know.
That reminds me of this movie called Blood and Donuts.
Oh my god.
Yeah, 'cause pretty sure she's a female vampire, and he's like, I just want to be with you. I just want to be with you. Please, please, please. And she's just like, oh, I don't have time for people.
Humans.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like such a bad fucking movie.
I can't.
It's called Blood and Donuts, okay? Like,
that's funny.
It's not good. My brother and I rented it thinking it might be decent, but it wasn't.
I mean, I totally see a female vampire just being like, God, they're so fucking weak. You know what I mean? Like, Whereas I think a male vampire would get off on the fact like, oh, this lady's so weak. You know
I guess
it
that
depends
a female
on the vampire.
yeah, because I'm like, I could see many female vampires being like, I don't like vamp men because they can overpower me so easily, but you?
Right.
You're my rag doll.
Right. I could I could see
that.
it both ways. I could see it being like, you can't keep up with me, so I'm not even gonna bother. And then the other time I could see it where they're just like dominatrix.
I don't know. I like female, like, I don't really care what gender the vampire is necessarily.
Me either.
But I do like certain specific pieces of vampire lore, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's some things, like the fact that the Christian cross is like the biggest anti-vampire thing. I find that amusing because vampires were around long before Christianity came about. But as soon as Christianity came about, like, oh, use the crucifix, and it's a failsafe.
To me, it's because I think a lot of Christians, at least past Christians, ancient Christians, mm-hmm. I don't want to speak for everybody, though I do think some people probably feel this way now, that vampires are demons.
Oh, yeah.
And the way to feel power over a demon or a dark creature is to feel like, oh, God. Or holiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like holy water usually works against vampires. Right. You can, like, in From Dusk Till Dawn, Harvey Keitel he's a preacher. He's a lapsed preacher because he stopped being a preacher after his wife died. But, George Clooney's like, you have a job to do, and it's bless this goddamn water because we need some holy water. And they put it in water soakers, yes. And they just come out and they just start soaking them down.
The Lost Boys when they put the holy
garlic water. Yes. I know, and then I hate when they push that guy in because it's like you just ruined all your garlic water, didn't you?
Right.
Like, can you get more than one vampire with it now? I don't know. I just feel like it was a waste. That was what I felt like when I watched it.
No, I mean, that's a great question. Can you kill them?
Right? But, did you look at any of, the old pictures of shit they used to do to vampires in their graves?
I didn't this time, but I think I've seen them. I've seen where they find corpses or bones with bricks in their mouth.
That's what I love.
Okay.
That right there. That is... I find that so interesting. They were brick in the bitch's mouth. Because, that was one of the first vampire images I saw in, my youth. Mm-hmm. And I saw it a couple times during this research as well.
Are real.
Yeah, it's there's people that are buried, nailed into their fucking coffins. There's people that are buried with, iron weapons with them to pierce their body if they become vampires in the coffin. People did all sorts of weird stuff to prevent vampires.
I know. Well, have you seen those vampire hunting kits that are legit? I mean, they don't actually go and hunt them, but they're vampire protection kits or whatever. And they've got holy water, and you've got a random. I guess this was after the 1700s, but they've got a thing of holy water. They've got a cross. They've got the necklace.
I came across that during one of the. I want one so bad. I need that kit. I mean, it's kind of like a fucking. It's as important as a. What are they called? Emergency Band-Aid kits. What are they? I was going to think go bag, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's important.
First aid kit.
But it's the same as a first aid kit. I need a vampire hunting kit. You know what I mean?
I mean, I can't say that I would not own a vampire hunting kit.
Right? I'm even if I just put it up for decoration, that's my vampire hunting kit.
Well, and back in the day, the stakes that would be in that vampire hunting kit, certain cultures use different woods. Some of them used ash, some used cedar, mm-hmm. Because of religious connotations and things mm-hmm. like that. But I feel the fact that so many things used iron is very telling about the connection between vampires and fae in the minds of the people back then.
Well, they're both, I guess, supernatural beings.
Right, exactly. Because, we always hear about wooden stakes, but there's, there's several vampires that have been found in their coffins. That one guy in Lesbos, he was actually built into one of the city walls on the island, and he had been nailed into his coffin with iron spikes.
Now, and why? Why do they choose these specific people? I think you said something really cool, like if you had red hair or
right,
gray
if you
eyes.
had red hair or gray eyes in Albania. This guy, they don't know for sure why he was identified as a vampire and singled out for that treatment. He did have some like cranial deformities, so they think the fact that he just looked weird, they were like, oh, there's something wrong with it. I know.
I mean, golly.
Yeah.
Oh, you got red hair? Oh my God, she's fucking not romantically kissed by fire like in Game of Thrones. She's fucking evil.
Right.
You know, like.
Well, and one, like, not just like the appearances, right? But if somebody in your family died recently, or if a family member died recently, and now like family members, neighbors, the cattle, the sheep, whatever around that dead person started like dying or getting sick,
right?
It was automatically like, oh, that person's a vampire, and
he's coming back and killing you all.
Right, exactly.
Now, what is the vampire that's Russian, I believe, that literally comes back and turns their family into vampire?
Well, no, I mean, like, that's part of the lore for all of the Slavic and Baltic areas, is that they come back to who's closest to them.
Wasn't there one that started with an M that was, like, specifically that came back to
I didn't read about a specific. Is it okay if I look
sure. Just because
all of the Slavic and, like, in the Slavic and Baltic areas, people started looking for vampires when a person died, and then their family members or whatever, their family members, their neighbors, the cattle, the sheep, the things closest to that family who lost somebody when illness and
which is
disease.
The Verdilak. Is that what you were talking about? So there's Wordaluk or something, or the V. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you still reading that?
I did not look that one up at all. I had not seen that at all.
Well, like that's the thing about like Russian and Slavic is there's so many different types of vampires.
But
I
mean,
just
like
one.
Yeah,
you know?
so I mean that one specifically does has to feed on its family, but like the reason that people started looking for vampires, like not historically, but every time they were like, oh, there's a vampire, it's because like somebody in this family died, and now either the livestock or the neighbors or the family of the person who died are getting sick and ill, and so they dig that person up to see if it's a vampire. And as I was telling you last night, the cure.
Right, this is nuts, guys. This is fucking crazy.
The cure for vampires, right? And it in theory, it kills the one guy, but it also saves everybody that's being affected.
They don't even cook it.
Well,
I mean, they burn it, but
they burn it to ash. So I mean, they cook it more than cook it. I mean, like it's ash.
Yeah, but it's
so
like
they exhume the supposed vampire. They remove the organs. Although Wikipedia says they like dismember it and do the whole body, but I've never heard that before. I read it on that Wikipedia article. I don't know who the fuck wrote that. But anyway, because I've been learning about vampires for like 38. So for 30 years at least, I've been learning about vampires because big interest for me. But they would burn, like just straight burn it to ash, like not cook it and then puree it, like burn it until it's nothing but ash, mix it with water, and then everybody in the family that was affected would drink it.
Bones are still in the ash, guys.
Yeah.
Like, they don't...
Well, but no, it's not. No, it's just organs.
No. Oh,
organs. Okay,
right.
It's
they did.
organs.
Okay, you said they didn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's just organs. You know, some places it's just the heart, but Yeah, like I said, the Wikipedia article is the only place that I ever saw the whole body. I've never seen that before.
Right in its Wikipedia. So.
Yeah, so what they know is not what I know, apparently. But, yeah, so in Romania, less than 10 years ago, like, I feel like it said 2019 in the news clip, but in Romania, a family dug up their recently deceased family member because all of these members of the family,
Lord.
they were like, I've been getting sick. You can find it on YouTube. There's a fucking interview with the people of this family. They dug it up. They took his heart out. They burned his heart to ash, and they drank it. And
do they speak English? I don't like watching interviews where I have to read subtitles.
I mean, this is Romania, so I'm pretty sure there were subtitles. I don't remember if I had to read or if they spoke English.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. I just am being lazy and like, do I want to read the subtitles right now? You know what I mean?
I understand. So I don't usually go to YouTube for a whole lot of stuff, but I love my old History Channel and A&E documentaries about like, the origins of vampires and shit. So that's where I came. Like, it went from one of the documentaries I chose to watch to that, and I was like, what the fuck?
It's like, clickbait.
No, I mean, it autoplayed, and I was just like, wait, they did that? And, like, I mean, one of the women that was talking on screen, she's like your age.
Jeez.
And she's like, I felt so much better after I drank the liquid.
Maybe it's
drank
placebo.
The ashes. Placebo. Maybe it is placebo. I don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting cure for vampirism.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember this movie came out? It had the guy from the fucking Jurassic Park. It was really good. It was like people turned into vampires because it like cured their illnesses. But then everybody turned into a vampire and they were running out of blood. And so the vampires...
Which guy from Jurassic Park?
The main guy, like, from the first one.
Dr.
Alan Grant.
Okay.
And it was like... It was really good. Guys, if you remember this, please let us know, because this shit was good. It was like, everybody turned into a vampire, because they came out with, like, this cure-all for, like, cancer and shit, and it was vampirism, drinking blood. They started running out of humans, so they started harvesting humans because everybody was a fucking vampire. Well, if you drink your own blood or you drink the blood of a vampire, you turn into a crazy batshit person. It was good. It was really good.
That sounds very interesting. I can't think that I've ever heard of that.
Daywalker?
Oh, okay. So I have heard of that.
Yeah,
it looks so shitty.
No, it was good.
Okay, I might watch it then. But because if I'm remembering correctly, Daywalker. Is that on Netflix? I feel like I scroll past it on Netflix, but the description looks stupid. I'm
already like looking on my phone, so I'm sorry.
I don't know. I know there's like an Ethan Hawke movie that's like about vampires and has like the word day in it or something.
Sam O'Neill.
Yeah, Sam O'Neill.
And let's see. Oh, apparently he's in Thor Ragnarok. I did not know that. Check out our Thor in a Dress episode if you like. But it's Daybreaker is what it's called, and it's
Is Ethan Hawke in that?
Let me see.
I feel like Ethan Hawke is.
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay.
Is that the one you haven't watched?
So I have put it on before. Pretty sure I fell asleep to it and never tried again because of that. But
okay,
I'll give it a shot.
It's a plague. It's a plague. I apologize. That's what turns them into vampires. Critical blood shortage causes panic and gruesome mutations among the dead. Edward, a vampire hematologist, develops a type of blood substitute, True Blood. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
and the two fugitive humans who claims to have a possible cure, blah, 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 blah. But I liked it. I mean, it was really good.
I mean, like I said, I put it on, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during it. I vaguely like Ethan Hawke movies, so I'm sure I gave it a chance. Mm-hmm. I just didn't necessarily give it a second chance. But I'm pretty sure.
It wasn't that bad. Granted, I watched it like with the year it came out. So if it's bad, I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. No. I don't know. It's an interesting concept of like, because you always think, like, I always think about it in zombie movies, you know, like what happens when they run out, right? So it is an interesting concept, and I will give it a second chance. Every time I've read the description, I'm like, keep scrolling.
I wondered that too. With zombie movies, do they eat each other? Do they...
But can they even survive on dead flesh? Because, like, if they could, they'd be constantly eating other zombies, right?
Do they have to eat? Because their brain is reanimated due to a virus. It's just keeping them alive. Do they have to eat? I don't know.
But pretty sure vampires have to eat, right? To keep going. Like, because I know...
I think it depends. I think it depends
Lestat, because... when he has no blood, he looks like shit. You know what I mean?
I think it depends on the lore. Or the, story, I guess I should say, because like Twilight vampires, they don't have to eat. They can't kill themselves. They can't drown themselves. They can't do anything. Carlisle, I'm gonna get into this real quick. So Carlisle was and is one of my favorite vampires. So he's like 300 or 400 years old. His dad was a Catholic or Protestant, I don't know, some sort of like whatever. So he did vampire hunts in Europe. And he would kill so many innocent people, thinking they were vampires or they were witches or whatever. And Carlisle did it at first. And then he was like, these are real people. Well, somehow his dad stumbles upon actual fucking vampires in a sewer in Europe, or hiding underground in Europe. And Carlisle gets bit. Well, because he was raised that vampires and witches and werewolves and shit were evil, he knew his dad would kill him, so he hides in like a bunch of like a potato like bundle, and he deals with the excruciating pain in silence, like just straight up like it's supposed to be the most horrific thing. And then he gets up and he's like, I want to kill myself. I'm a monster now. Like, I was taught that these people are demons. So he doesn't eat anything. He tries to drown himself. That doesn't work. He tries to jump off a high building or high cliff. That doesn't work. He can't he cannot physically kill himself. He doesn't eat for months, if not a year, blood. And it's at that point that he's so ravenous that a herd of deer run by, and that's when he can't control himself any longer, and he drinks the blood of a deer, and that's when he realizes, hey, I can't kill myself, but maybe I don't have to kill other people. And so Carlisle Cullen has never drank the blood of a human. And he was an open heart surgeon.
And I mean,
like, so with that lore, they can't. They'll just kill something eventually,
right? And I mean, in old timey lore, right? Vampires needed to feed on what have you, blood, or the Vricolaus in Greece ate the liver, right? But.
Well, I wonder if they'll just get so hungry that they can't get to the point where they would starve themselves. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and I'm going to go scientific here and go, but the reason that we have any of this vampire lore at all is because Maria Theresa of the Habsburg dynasty sent her personal physician out to investigate.
Van Helsing. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he is one of the basis for Van Helsing.
I totally yeah.
His name is Gerard von Swieten. And
that is a German fucking name, right? He's German, right?
Austrian. They're Austrian, I believe.
Well, that is a European fucking name, if I ever heard
very much so. And, like, Maria Theresa's whole fucking name is, like,
I know,
5 names.
Right, like, very European.
Maria Theresa of the Habsburgs. But, like, while she was in control in the mid-1700s, so 1745, she's, like, one of the more powerful women in her area. And, like, she hears this disturbing account of these people over in, like, Serbia or Romania that have dug up, like, 9 individuals and burned them as vampires, and, like, several of them were children. And she's like, this is fucking an aberration. Like, she's all about enlightenment. And not enlightenment it's the opposite of the kind of enlightenment we're going for, right? Like, we're enlightening ourselves to open our mind and broaden it. The Enlightenment in the mid to late 1700s was being more scientific and less folklore, less mythology about things. So she sends her personal physician out, and that is where we get Van Helsing from, because he does all these scientific fucking studies. Like, he looks into, he doesn't just, like, interview people and get their accounts. He digs up bodies, he looks at them, he examines them. That's how because he's a doctor, right? He's her personal physician. He's a really good physician. That's why he's her personal physician. Yes. And he discovers things like, you know, the nails, they look like they're long and curved, but really the skin has pulled back from the nail. You know, the hair keeps growing and we just didn't realize it. There's blood coming out of the mouth because of all these things happening in the body. And he wrote up an entire fucking report, and at the end of his report he said that vampires only exist where there is not learning or something along those lines. Fuck you. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, it was all the peasant areas. And, I mean, this is the 1700s. There wasn't learning in many areas anyway. But basically, he was like, he wasn't saying... I think it was his tactful way of trying not to be like, vampires absolutely don't exist. He was saying they only exist where folklore takes place.
Right.
Because they're not a real creature.
Right.
But other real vampire lore that we have, because it's real people, are Vlad and... Why can't I remember Countess Elizabeth de Bathory. Okay. Yes. Bathory. I was like, I cannot remember this bitch's name.
I like Elizabeth. She's my favorite vampire. Now, I say that in the same way that I say, I think World War II, or you know what I mean? She's my favorite to learn about, okay? Yeah. So when I say I have a favorite, something horrible, it's my favorite to learn about. I need to really work on fixing that. I do love her, though. I love her story. It's horrible.
It is.
But,
she and Vlad were the first two I learned about.
And I think I had read somewhere that it's possible they were cousins of some sort.
No, they are. They're related. She's several hundred years after him, but she's a descendant of his.
I'm just saying, I think they may be real vampires.
Well, as we've talked.
Or they have, maybe some, incest in their family, and they got that, weird...
I just don't know that I believe the stories about her.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in vampires, and I was like, Amber, no.
Don't tell me. I just don't know that I believe the stories about her. She's the most powerful woman of her time. She owned the most land out of everybody in her area. She had more money than the government, who owed her money. And then after she was put away for all her crimes, all of her male relatives wound up with her lands. And her male relatives that wound up with her lands were friends with the guy that wrote the letter saying, you need to go check her out. I think she's killing people.
Hashtag hex the patriarchy.
I'm sorry. I don't believe... Look, it's so hard for me to go... I fully believe that she tortured and murdered these girls. For one... There's nothing in the historical accounts about her bathing in their blood. It was just she fucking tortured them and beat them to death and all this shit. Which I'm not saying is impossible. I just don't believe it based on the fact that the guy who wrote this letter just out of nowhere happened to be really good friends with the people that benefited.
What if she was a lesbian dominatrix and that pissed him off because they were like, wait... First, you know what I mean?
I don't know.
That's a stretch.
A lot of people want to say, her closest confidants, testified against her after they'd been tortured.
By who? Her and them?
The guys that arrested them.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, but when you have something so much to gain, I don't trust that your account is completely...
I sound horrible when I'm like, Amber, don't ruin my vision of Elizabeth Bathory, but it's maybe yours is better than mine.
She was such a powerful woman. Now, she was a rich woman.
Well, you have to understand,
and she had a lot of...
used to get rid of wrinkles because it tightens the skin. So that wasn't an uncommon practice. So maybe that's something that she did. Maybe she used blood masks.
Maybe.
You
but
know?
like and maybe she really was a harsh mistress. Mm-hmm. You know, there were plenty of harsh mistresses back then. Not saying it's okay. I'm just saying, like, they didn't all get locked up in their castle and lose all their fucking lands and money either. But they didn't own as much as she did. They weren't as powerful as she was.
The fact that Vlad and her are related makes me wonder if maybe there is some sort of mental illness that runs in the family. It's a flip of a coin, like the Targaryens with Game of Thrones. The reason why I threw incest out there is because that's such a common practice back then, especially amongst very, like, rich families, which they both were. You know what I mean? So it would make sense, but unfortunately, when you have that sort of thing going on, you flip the coin and risk having mental illness, or, you know, also mental illness just was kind of common back then.
Well, plus they had no idea back then that incest led to that. They thought they were keeping the bloodline pure. They didn't know they were making hemophiliacs.
Exactly.
You know?
Which, to me, I think the fact that they both have something crazy, vampiric, I mean, whatever you want to believe.
I think part of it has to do with the part of the world they come from, though.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I can see that.
Like, because, I mean, Vlad, he was kind of probably the first real-life vampire we all learned about, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know, for me, the book that I had where I learned about vampires for the first time, it went Vlad the Impaler, followed by Elizabeth the Bathory.
Oh, absolutely.
And then there were other stories that I don't
but
remember
those two,
well.
I think, are the most famous. And yeah.
Exactly. And it's like...
impaled people. I want to like him as much as I like Elizabeth, but then I feel like I'm not being fair because Elizabeth was kind of a bad person, too. But, like, Elizabeth didn't shove a stick up someone's ass.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Well, with Vlad, it was wartime. He was trying to intimidate and it worked, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you got 30,000 soldiers that walk up, and there's a forest of impaled people, like...
terrifying.
Who wants to fight that guy? Nobody wants a stick shoved up their ass.
And some of them are still alive. Like, I mean, depending on when they got there, because he did it. He could shove a stick up your ass and out your mouth and keep you alive for a little bit too.
Right. And so they're like they weren't like you know, they're like, this is their body and here's the stick. So it's like they're just gonna slowly die as they slide down that stick.
Down the bowl.
Oh my God! What a I fully believe in at least the fact that he impaled people.
Oh, absolutely! I believe that.
I believe that he was out there eating dinner, watching them die.
Yeah, I can.
That was the first thing I ever read about him when I was a kid. Is like
he's like. Yeah. Well, I could see Vlad the Impaler drinking blood because he's so fucking insane, you know. Or maybe it's like a.
He's a dragon, though.
He's an or it's like like you said, what is it? Not imitation. You fucking know what I'm talking about. Intimidation thing where he's like, oh yeah, I just impaled that guy. Oh, I'm gonna drink his fucking blood too.
Well, I mean, and that would make sense because in Dracula, like in Bram Stoker's Dracula, you know, that's how it all starts, right? He's like, I denounce the church and I'm gonna drink the blood.
Yeah.
The blood is the life and the life is me or something.
I'm sorry, but like, I don't mean to make light of it, but can you imagine being like a soldier that's like, oh my God, this guy just impaled people and now he's drinking their blood. This guy's a fucking crazy bastard.
Yeah, I'd be running.
Even if he didn't drink it and he just pours it on his mouth and is like, I'd be like, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Absolutely.
Gross. Yeah.
Sorry, I got into that there, but
no,
I mean, I could definitely...
I could see it. I could see it, just I guess maybe a little too much. It's kind of gross. When I think about it, like, because I mean, blood is thick and warm. And
it's probably better warm than cold. Not to be a vampire weirdo bitch, but I mean, if I was gonna drink it, I'd rather have it warm. Like, let's be clear.
Oh, it's too metallic for me. I can't take it. Couldn't.
I want to be a vampire, but God, I don't want to think about it doing it as a human. That'd be weird. Like, I don't
want to take anything's life, which I say as a person who eats meat.
Okay,
sometimes.
Louie. Like,
damn it, I am that vampire.
I I think my hope would be that if you are a vampire, blood would taste different, maybe much better than what you.
Okay, I'm a Louie because I don't want to take anything's life. Yep, I'm a Louie.
Well, I think, like I said in my last episode, I think I'd probably go on a crazy binger for about 50 to 100 years. Nothing innocent. Maybe kill some bad guys.
No, because Louie drinks the blood of rats, and I'm over here like, no, I don't want rat blood.
You
I don't want to kill a deer.
You eat deer anyway. It's no different. It just
It's raw. Yeah. I don't know. It's different because I don't have to personally take their lives.
Yeah, like I could not hunt.
I'm spoiled, obviously. Like,
so I'll be like, bring me blood. Okay, well, there's a cool trope in vampire literature, modern vampire literature, where there are secret blood banks over the United States.
Yeah.
And they're like,
oh yeah, there's a Tales from the Crypt episode about
people
that.
that donate blood. Would you feel more comfortable drinking donated, consensual, organic blood? Are you gonna be that bougie bitch vampire? I only drink donated blood. It's like,
I think I'd have to be a Dexter vampire.
I say that and it sounds very vegan. No hate to vegans, but it does sound very vegan. I only drink consensual, donated, or what is it, like, ethically gathered blood.
I guess I'm a Dexter vampire. I could take out people that deserve to die.
Yeah, that's what I think I would do too.
Unless it's that thing where you take on their personality when you drink their blood.
Oh, that's a thing. That's a
lot
trope.
Of vampire tropes.
I've seen that. But I think I could too. I think I could definitely do that. I think Dexter vampire would be the best way to describe it. But then I would have to not think about it because in one sense you're killing a bad guy. Let's say you're killing a child molester and you're killing. He's inside you now because you drink his blood.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like you have to be what you put in your body.
Yes, exactly. So you got to be like. You gotta be chill, but I think I definitely think I could probably kill some bad guys, and then eventually I think being a vampire is one of those things. After 100 years, you kind of grow numb to it. Probably. I think that's what happened with Louis, because he ate the rats at first,
right,
and then he slowly started eating normal things, and that's sad.
And I think his creation of Claudia is what made him change.
Yeah,
because he got so desperate, like we talked about earlier, that he ended up feeding on a child.
Like Carlisle. With the deer.
And then he was like, oh my god, I can't kill this child.
Right.
And Lestat's like, you fucked up, but I'll fix your fucking fuck up.
Yeah.
And now Claudia's a thing. And Louis like, shit. That was
irresponsible not to feed.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I could do things much worse.
Exactly.
Right.
Because he made a huge mess by turning Claudia into a vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Which, like, I didn't see anything about
be a responsible vampire. Like, get, like, vampire responsibly. You know what I mean?
Vamp responsibly.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Yeah.
I would put that on a bumper sticker. I'm not gonna fucking lie.
I think
I don't think anybody would get it, but like, unless you put like things on it,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd have to. Like,
or drink responsibly, and then like they have like the fangs. That would be fun. I actually love that. I'm a dork. Maybe that's lame.
As somebody who grew up in the 80s, 90s, I like Vamp responsibly because Vamp was a thing. Like, I think there's a movie. Yeah, I think there's a movie called Vamps. It's a vampire movie. It's a really shitty one. But, like, calling vampires vamps, that was very much an 80s, 90s thing. So, like, I feel like Vamp responsibly. I love that. I do. I like drink responsibly as well, but I like vamp responsibly much better. But, speaking of vamping responsibly, I know we started off with what we know as today as vampires in our last episode, and this one is mostly historical lore on vampires. And unfortunately, guys, I know that we got off topic a little bit and probably haven't covered everything maybe you were hoping to hear, like heads cut off and put between legs for burial. But what do you think about today's vampires that actually are sanguine vampires.
What does sanguine mean?
Blood.
Oh.
They drink blood.
Okay, I was like so
yeah.
confused.
Yeah, they're called, like, quite often they're called sanguine.
Okay, I know.
vampires 'cause
Like
they
you're
drink
talking
blood.
about the legit ones. They actually have clubs and cults. So, okay, sorry. Like I'm thinking, you know, I think a real vampire, which I fully believe. Laugh at me, bitch. I fully believe in vampires. I think a real vampire would not be so out in the open about it. I'm not going to sit there and say I think they are. You know what? To each their own. And if you want to drink responsibly. I'm going to say that. Take vitamin B, B12, and never do anything without another person's consent. And make sure...
Be tested.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And make sure you and your partner are both tested.
Yeah.
Because I believe there was like a fucking thing in the 90s where like a whole
Think
ass
so.
fucking like... It was like a I don't know. They were drinking each other's blood and everybody got AIDS. So that's what I think that goes along with drink responsibly.
But yeah. Yeah.
You know,
now I will say that I don't know.
I don't know if I think they're real vampires. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like just say to each their own, but like if they believe it,
hey, good for them. That's fine.
You know.
What I was going to say is I believe in vampires from the standpoint of every fucking culture has legends of the bloodsucker. Yes, that can be just from a human fear, right? We're afraid of things that can come at us when we're unawares and take our life essence. That is a terrifying thought as a human. I'm sure any of you would understand. But for every culture to have these lores, that is where I am predisposed to belief because I don't believe they would all have even if it's like slightly different here and slightly different there. Like cats are slightly different here and slightly different there. Dogs are slightly different here and slightly different there. Bears are slightly different here and slightly. So for mythological creatures to be slightly different here and slightly different there, like that doesn't mean they can't be real. And I truly believe that the vampire comes from a real something. What that is, I'm not sure. Because there's stuff like tuberculosis, because it made you cough up blood, so you'd have blood coming out of your mouth, you'd constantly be coughing up blood, and they didn't necessarily know what that was from.
Iron deficiencies.
At first, right? So, like, that might be where the fear of vampires comes from. It might be from, it was right there. Shitballs. I hate that. Bloodsuckers. Stealing your essence when you're unaware. Fuck, I had a point. But basically, I feel like there's got to be some basis, right? Like, there's a basis in our history. There's a basis in our culture. Oh, I don't know if it has to do with the sickness. Like, some people, like, they have to consume blood. Like, not just a vitamin D or an iron deficiency, but there's, like, an actual illness where people are, like, compelled to drink blood or they have to drink blood. Like, there's been, like, different, like, Law and Order or, you know, those types of shows, episodes about somebody that, like, yeah. So, like, I know that's a thing that can lead to the vampire lore, but I feel like there's got to be more to it than just those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there is actual reasons. And just like, maybe it's a thing like they all live underground now because the world is no longer something where they can creep about at night, you know?
So, here's my thought. I, personally, I believe in the Nymphoem. Kind of unrelated, but it says in the Bible, if you believe in the Bible, the Nymphoem were on the earth in the old days and after the flood with Noah, which means if you're a Christian, you believe that there are Nymphoem just walking around among us and we don't know who they are. And I think my belief is similar when it comes to vampires. Hey, they're walking among us and we don't know who they are. Again, maybe I think a lot of people would be like, this bitch is crazy. But fuck fucking sue me, okay? They're there. Is there a vampire in our town? Maybe.
Look, don't start when I wake up all like out of sorts and shit, I'm gonna start having weird thoughts. Like don't keep talking.
I'm talking
this.
like you gotta have like some marks on you.
I mean, but do you? What if it's a Mirai? And it just sucks you while you're asleep? The Mirai is the one that's
I know. I'm like
oh shit, no, I scared you?
My town is so old. My town is so old. What if there's like a couple more vamps still walking around everywhere, and we're just like,
I'm not gonna make the bad joke that's in my head.
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
But what if there is and we don't know?
Oh, I don't know. What do you guys think about vampires? You should let us know on Twitter at Classiest Witches.
Don't say you don't believe.
I didn't say do you believe. I said what do you think?
Right.
Just like, are they cool? Are they annoying? Overplayed? What's your favorite vampire movie?
And if you do believe, check out our new bumper stickers we've got. I'm actually really excited about that.
Absolutely. They'll be on our Instagram, which is Talking Tarot.
Yes. Yeah. So you'll be able to see some of those.
Yeah. And Melissa, you'll be getting one before I think you hear this episode, probably.
Yes, that would be fucking awesome.
Yay.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll get there in time.
All right. Well, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you coming to sit with us for a spell, and we'll see you next time. Bye.